Well, hello, friends. Here are your news headlines for Thursday, June 6th, 2024. It's the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and President Biden is marking it by reminding everybody the stakes for today. The president will be going to France this week and try to demonstrate steadfast support for European security at a time when some allies fear Donald Trump threatens to upend American commitments if he wins another term in the White House, according to the Associated Press. Let's head down to Georgia. Big news from an appeals court yesterday, now pausing the criminal case against Donald Trump of seeking to subvert the 2020 election while it considers the former president's bid to disqualify the lead prosecutor, Fani Willis. Court order prevents the sprawling case against Trump and 14 co-defendants from moving toward trial while Trump appeals a judge's ruling allowing Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, to remain on the case. So that is terrible news. And in a related story, Manhattan prosecutors urged a judge Wednesday to keep Donald Trump's gag order in place in his hush money criminal case, at least until the former president is sentenced in July, 4 days before the Republican National Convention, opposing a defense request that the restrictions be lifted following his felony convictions last week. All 34 of them. All right, now let's go to a Capitol Hill fight worth watching. Yesterday, House Republicans approved a veterans funding bill that would limit abortion access for troops and veterans. Wait, what? Setting up another partisan clash with Democrats in the Senate and the White House ahead of a September 30th deadline to fund the government. And speaking of women's reproductive rights, Senate Republicans, according to the Washington Post yesterday, this is them reporting, well, they blocked legislation designed to protect women's access to contraception, which was, of course, a political ploy from Democrats in the Senate to get Republicans in the Senate on the record on contraception. They keep telling you they're not coming for your contraception. They are. But arguing that the bill was just a political stunt, Republicans said, to mount an election year effort to put GOP senators on the record on reproductive rights. The test vote won a 51-39 majority, but it was well short of the 60 votes move ahead on legislation. It came as the Senate abandoned hopes of doing serious bipartisan legislation before the Senate. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and his Democrats are trying to instead spotlight issues they believe can help them win the presidency and keep the Senate in November. A similar vote on ensuring nationwide access to in vitro fertilization is expected next week, and good for them for doing this. This is good politics. This is exactly what they should do. Get these Republicans on the record. And let's go to the House, where now House Republicans sent a criminal referrals to the Justice Department recommending President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, and brother James Biden be charged with making false statements to Congress. I bet you that's going nowhere. Now, the latest January 6th prison sentence. Donald Trump supporter who assaulted law enforcement officers with bear spray and a metal whip, and who was arrested thanks to a woman's sting operation on the dating app Bumble. Well, guess what? He was sentenced to just over 6 years in prison on Wednesday. Yay! And applause. Okay, an important international gathering in France. I mentioned that. Ongoing climate emergency. This is big news yesterday. Here it is from the Associated Press. The rate Earth is warming hit an all-time high in 2023 with 92% of last year's surprising record-shattering heat caused by humans, top scientists calculated. The group of 57 scientists from around the world used United Nations-approved methods to examine what's behind last year's deadly burst of heat. And while our planet is already experiencing some of the highest temperatures in 100,000 years, that's great news. Yet the United Nations Weather Agency announced yesterday, that there's nearly a 90% chance that the planet will set yet another record for its warmest year by 2028. The chances are almost as great that between now and then, the average global temperature will be 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, higher than it was at the dawn of the industrial age, that level countries set out to avoid under the Paris Agreement in 2015. So why don't we just take a breath and try to comprehend how terrible that all sounds. Let's go to the Middle East, where Israel said it has launched a new operation in central Gaza, where health officials reported dozens have been killed. And now health news. A new report from the National Academies said that long COVID could encompass more than 200 symptoms involving nearly every organ system. Oof, more bad news. Now, let's go to space. 2 astronauts headed to orbit in the long-delayed Boeing-built Starliner capsule. It's expected to dock at the International Space Station tomorrow. That's cool. News on China. U.S. and allied officials warn that Beijing has intensified a campaign to entice Western former fighter pilots to train Chinese pilots. Please don't sell out. Maverick. In Ukraine, with the country's power grid hobbled by Russian attacks, authorities ordered nationwide rolling blackouts this week. And in the UK, in Britain, collectors are lining up to get the first banknotes with a portrait of King Charles III. The NYPD is preparing to revoke Donald Trump's license to carry a gun after his felony conviction in New York, but I guess he could still be president. And in Japan, the birth rate has fallen to a record low as the number of marriages also drops, which I thought was an interesting story to report. And it looks like Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez are going to be selling their home. That is the headline you didn't need to know that I'm ending on. Those are your headlines for Thursday, June 6th, 2024. Listen to my podcast, support it, patreon.com/Pete Dominick.